What is happening, and welcome to another Photography Talk episode. Hey, it's actually the first one for 2023, and friends, we're going to kick off the year by talking about 5 mistakes that beginners make with photography and how you can avoid those. Now, let's be real here. It's an inevitable part of being a photographer. You will make mistakes. Hell, it's not a matter of if, might, or maybe. You will. It's a part of the learning process. And learning by doing means that you'll have some successes, and heck, you're going to have some failures. And actually, while on that topic here, if you look at some of the most successful photographers out there, these are not photographers that had a silver lining put in front of them, maybe some, but the majority of these, the greats out there, they got to where they are because they fell down, but they knew how. Well, actually, let me take that back. They fell down more than others, but the important part is they knew how to get up. But part of growth as a photographer is to learn what mistakes to avoid in the first place. And hell, that's the purpose of today's video. Now, there are probably hundreds, if not thousands of mistakes that you can make as a photographer. Now, what I've done here is I've narrowed down it to the top 5 just to get started. Now, if you learn how to avoid these common mistakes, you'll be on your way to creating much improved photos. But before we go diving into today's discussion, friends, look, videos like this, we put these together for your benefit. And friends, you'd be doing me a huge favor if you find some value with this video, because there's that whole YouTube algorithm that I keep bringing up in almost every one of my videos here that really digs it when you hit that like button, and we certainly do as well. So we do appreciate that. That said, friends, pull up a seat and hey, it's that time. Let's go. All right, friends, we're going to kick things off with the first mistake here is getting caught up in tons of gear. And this is one of the most common buckets, hence the reason I'm leading with this one to start with this video here. Photography Talk, we are 14 years old, and one of the more common questions or things that we get asked are from people looking for our input on what gear to get. And when you take the time to understand as far as, okay, what are they currently using? Where are they at in their photography journey? Are they at and so forth? And the bulk of these questions are coming from people that are just getting into it. They're beginners, they're just starting out. And some will actually say, hey, I'm just getting started. I have $5,000 to spend. I have $10,000 to spend. I have $1,000 to spend. What do you recommend for gear? And then we've seen some people that have bright, shiny object syndrome, where they have just started and they have a camera that's maybe a year old or maybe 2 years old. And they would let us know, like, hey, we see you have this Sony you have this Canon that has just been released. I'd like to upgrade my camera. I'm looking for your recommendations. And then again, they're getting so focused on the gear versus getting out there and taking good photos. Now, you can go out there, and here, all you beginners that are just getting started that are watching this video right now, this is absolutely important. Don't buy into all that marketing rhetoric that you see coming out from the camera companies and so forth. Get out there, learn the basics of photography with any camera. Last year, and actually the few years even before that, I've done a number of reviews where I've done reviews on old ass cameras. This is a 1974-ish Canon AE1. I absolutely love this camera. This thing is an absolute treat to go out there and shooting. The premise behind some of the videos that I had done where I was out there shooting cameras that are 20, 40 years old, or hell, you can go out there with a camera that's 10 years old. It doesn't matter. The point being is you can save some money. Even a camera like this, a relic like this that uses little boxy things like this called film. You only get 36 shots here. This camera right here, heck yeah, is probably one of the more powerful learning tools that any beginner could possibly pick up. And yeah, I'm not saying you have to go out there and buy this exact camera, but film cameras, I paid, was it 100 or 145? I think I paid $145 for this thing. I forget what I paid for this, but it wasn't expensive. The lens on here, I got for 40 bucks. And this is a 35 to 105. And so it when I bought it, it came with a 50 millimeter 1.8, I want to say. Anyways, a little cheapo lens there. But where I'm leading with this here is don't get caught up in buying the latest and greatest of gear until your experience level in the actual legitimate need is there. Hell, you can go out there if you have a relatively newish iPhone or Samsung or whatever it may be. These make great tools itself. Hell, I have to go in. I think I have something like 46,961 photos.
What did you say?
46,961 photos.
Damn!
I've used on this thing or taken on this thing. And I think my videos are, 4,069 videos. So this is a great tool for getting out there. If you are in a pinch or because from a convenience standpoint, the cameras in these things are actually pretty good. Would I compare it to my R5 or even the R6? It's not. And I would not recommend it to take the place of either of those. But this is a great, again, if you're getting started, this is a great tool that you can get very inexpensively because chances are it's already in your pocket. Then made it up with something like this for 100, 200 bucks total, 200 bucks total in that thing. And friends, you are off to the races. Now, the only downside with film is the film is a little pricey. But still, it slows you right down and you learn real fast the relationship between shutter speed, ISO, and aperture.
Well, took you long enough.
Kind of slow down where I was going to lead with that there, but it's a great learning tool. So anyways, don't get caught up in the gear. Mistake number 2, shooting in full auto. Let me start by saying that shooting in full auto is perfectly fine when you're first getting started as a photographer. By shooting in full auto, you let the camera make all the technical decisions, which frees you up to focus on learning some of the creative aspects of photography like composition and the framing. But you can't stay in full auto forever. When you let the camera make all those technical decisions, you don't learn anything about adjustments of the camera. Things that we spoke about a moment ago, like adjusting the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, let alone what all those things do individually as well as together. Now, I get it. It can be intimidating to take the reins and start controlling the exposure settings yourself. But I promise you, friend, you do that with practice quite often here. The photos you create in aperture priority, shutter priority, and program mode, and manual mode above all will be much better than if you took the photos in full auto. And for me, I feel much more connected to the photos when I use manual mode. And you'll see what I'm talking about. When you take a photo in auto, to me, that's just a shot. When you take a photo in full manual, you're more part of the finished product. You're going to take a lot more pride in that photo. And that photo is going to be a much better learning tool for you as well because you're knees deep or fingers deep, and actually that potentially sounds wrong, but you know where I'm leaning with this here. You are involved in that picture making process and that's going to pay big dividends in your success as a photographer. Now, no matter how advanced your camera is, they simply cannot survey this scene and make the necessary settings as well as we, the trained photographers, can. And that's why it's a mistake to stay in full auto. I mean, you can get some good shots here and there, but you'll be severely limited in the conditions in which you can get good results. It's good to know how exposure works anyways. And one of the things that I'd love to bring up here, the exposure triangle, which is what we call the interaction between aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, is a great way to learn about how each of these settings, about each one of these settings and what they do and how they interact when you get them all together. The exposure triangle is a detailed subject, but not one I really have time to go into discussion in this video. But what I'll do is I will put a link to a great resource on Photography Talk that goes into depth on this subject. Now, I'll also recommend that you check out my video on exposure settings. Both of these resources will get you headed in the right direction. Now, likewise, I've linked to an article that we have on Photography Talk about semi-automatic modes I mentioned earlier. Aperture priority, shutter priority, program mode allow you to do some control over the camera settings without taking full control like you do with manual mode. Now, these semi-automatic modes are really nice baby steps to getting out of full auto. Now, the third mistake to avoid builds off of the previous one. Not having an understanding of the technical aspects of photography severely limits you, my friend, in your ability to take the best shot. But not understanding the creative aspects of photography, like composition, is an absolutely big mistake as well. Again, this is a huge topic that is worthy of a video on its own. And well, thankfully, last year I did a video on 10 composition tips, which again, I'll put a link down in the description below. Now, I don't want to rehash that video, but I would strongly recommend that you go take the time, watch it, get an introduction to basic compositional tricks of the trade. Simple tricks like how to use leading lines, filling the frame with the subject, and taking photos from various vantage points can help you create much more interesting images. Again, this isn't all about eliminating your mistakes because friends, even the most seasoned professionals are going to goof up from time or now and again rather, but learning the fundamentals about composition is much more than being informed. Understanding the does and doesn't work for a particular shot and putting what you have learned into practice. And as cliche as it sounds, but practice really does make a perfect shot, but practice really, anyways. And the more you practice essential compositional tips, the closer your photos will become to perfect. Now, in addition to my compositional video, I'm going to put links to the descriptions to some tutorials on Photography Talk that will help you get your feet wet with some basic compositional tips. Mistake number 4, getting caught up in the likes. Now, when you start out with photography, it's only natural that you want to share your images that you've created. I mean, hell, look at apps like Instagram have made it really easy to get your photos out there and share them with the world. But at the same time, photographers, they've fallen into a big trap. It's a big black hole, sharing images for the likes and the shares and gaining followers. And rather than creating images that reflect who you are as a photographer and what you love about your photos. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great to get a ton of likes on a photo that you post, but your reasoning for taking the photo shouldn't be to get as many likes as possible. Instead, photography should be about what you love and your images should be a reflection of that. Now, if you post a photo that doesn't get many likes, who cares? What's more important is that you've learned something about yourself as a photographer and you've tried a new technique, or your latest photo represents the growth of your previous one. This is an essential learning tool right here. Sharing your images, it is a big deal, and the pressure to post every day or post certain types of images can be absolutely immense. Caught up in that will only take away from your journey of growth behind the lens. Focus on creating photos that allow you to learn to grow as a photographer, not photos that you think everyone is going to like and share. Okay, we're going to close off this mistake video with probably one of my favorites here. It's the final mistake I want to point out is that far too often that when things go wrong with a photo, we say something like, "That stupid camera." And I'm going to jump in the Wayback Machine myself and give you an example. This was, holy smokes, this had been a good 10, 11 years ago. I was on the north side of San Francisco, towards the west side of the Golden Gate Bridge. There's a vantage point over there that if you get positioned right as the sun is coming up, you can catch some absolute gorgeous sunrises, for that matter, sunsets of San Francisco. Now, I had gotten into position and I had been there with my tripod and camera set up for at least a good hour and a half. And slowly, and this was like 5 a.m., and it was before sunrise. And so slowly some other people would trickle in there. They're getting set up, getting framed up, thinking about what shot that they want to get there and really mentally investing themselves into what's going to be happening. Now, you know as well as I do, if you're photographing the sunrise or sunset, that magical time, you have just a very kind of shallow window to work with from a timing standpoint. So at any rate, the sun's coming up and it's gorgeous. There's some fog down below, and the just golden rays of awesomeness are kind of touching the tips of all the buildings there. It was fantastic. Out of my left side, I hear this guy comes running up. He throws his bag down, his tripod down. He's flustered getting his camera, or his tripod all set up. He puts his camera on there, and I'm listening to this guy, So he gets his camera set up, and the whole time, I'm hearing him, fucking camera, fucking. Look, I don't mean to chuckle or be entertained at somebody else's expense, but this guy was really entertaining, and that camera took a blunt force of a lot of remarks from this particular photographer itself. And I want to say, so this is, in the back of my head, as I'm still telling this story, I think I had the D800 at the time, if that puts things in perspective, because I remember that guy, it was a Canon. It was a Canon of some sort. That's all I can remember about it. And I remember at that time I was shooting on Nikon. But boy, and he didn't even stick around for the full sunrise. He was really yelling and mumbling things to the camera and so forth. And so, on the flip side of things here, if you think about it, when a photo turns out really nice, what do people say? Oh, that camera takes such great photos. All right, and yeah, some cameras and lenses are better and more capable than others, but if a photo doesn't turn out well, it isn't your camera's fault, it is yours. By the same token, when a photo turns out absolutely remarkable, it is you, my friend, not the camera. Now, this point relates to my first mistake I warned you about, not getting caught up in buying a ton of gear. You can have a $10,000 setup and take absolutely terrible, rubbish photos. On the same token, you can have a $500 setup, you can have a $200 setup and take absolutely fantastic, remarkable photos. So before you go out there and buy a new camera and a few lenses, be sure you've taken the time to learn how to be a photographer. As you learn and grow, your skills will exceed what you can do with that current gear. Then, by all means, knock yourself out. Go upgrade your kit and buy something that is more capable. Now, like I said before, becoming a photographer is a journey. It's not going to happen overnight. But every step that you take to minimize your mistakes and learn new techniques will get you one step closer to that moment, that glorious moment when you realize that you're a photographer and a pretty damn good one as well. Again, be sure to check the links in the description below to some helpful tutorials on the website. And be sure to check out our other YouTube videos that we have that will help you minimize your mistakes and really maximize your results. All right, friends, and there you go. Those are my top picks in terms of mistakes that beginner photographers make. Now, again, there are a ton of mistakes that photographers make all day long, every day of the year. These just happen to be the 5 that I think are kind of the tip of the sword and what I believe are some good solutions to these. That said, let's shift gear. Let's talk about some fun stuff here as well. Let's talk about our current giveaway, which is happening as we speak right now. Friends, we have 3 excellent prizes up for the grab this month. We have a Vanguard VAIO adapter camera bag. We have a photo block from Sal Digital. And of course, the $100 Amazon gift card. Now, as always, friends, we make it super easy for you to participate in these giveaways. Step 1, well, first you got to like this video, you need to subscribe to our channel. Step 2, leave a comment below. In fact, the more of our videos that you watch and leave a comment on, the more chances that you have to win. So by all means, get watching some of the videos and leave some comments. Step 3, register on Photography Talk and introduce yourself in the forum. Now, if you happen to register on the site already during one of the last giveaways, you're still eligible to win. But as I keep saying over and over again, swing it by, post some photos. We would love to hear from you, and that is it. For complete details on the giveaway, including how to register on Photography Talk or how to say hello in the forum, check out the description below. Good luck, and One last thing before I go jumping out of here. If you enjoy this sort of content, be sure to head over to Photography Talk, sign up for an account. It's free to do so, and it's going to give you access to thousands of photography-related articles on the site, including news articles about camera gear, photography tutorials, and much, much more. So take a moment, sign up for an account, and get access to material that will help you take your best shot. And friends, well, not only was that was a bit of a mouthful there, but that's all I have here for you today. But as always, look, this is our first video that we're publishing or pushing out for 2023 as I closed off 2022 with an immense amount of gratitude for each one of you tuning into the channel. There are a lot of resources, a lot of really good resources on YouTube. And I understand you have a limited amount of time. So of course we are very thankful for you taking time out of your schedule, supporting our channel, watching these videos. I really hope that we were able to provide some value. And if you have further questions, by all means, go down in the comments and leave some questions. And if there's something that either is lingering over your head or a question that you have on some of the material or some of the points that we made, or whatever it may be, just leave a question down below. Happy to help you out. And that is going to be a good point in this video where I'm going to ask you to do all the YouTube stuff. The like, subscribe, hit the bell, the notifications, so therefore you don't miss a single video just like the one that you just watched. But friends, I'm going to be shutting off these cameras so you get out there, stay healthy, and take your best shot.